Okay. That wasn't too much of an omission. Well, one point that I want to emphasize is that it's really easy to see faults in other people. That's why we need to forgive other people. And it's really hard to see a lot of our own faults. A lot of times we overemphasize insignificant things and blow them up, and they become really important. But the really important faults of ours we don't see. And in fact, one of the faults that you don't see is when you blow up little things and make a big deal out of them. But when you start seeing faults in other people, it's always good to kind of take a time out, take a breather, and, well, what's going on here? Why am I getting so judgmental? What buttons of mine are getting pushed here that's making me feel this way? And a lot of times, if you look close, what really upsets us in other people are our own faults. I'm not sure why that is. But it seems like frequently what we find the most difficult to deal with other people. Well, let's put it this way. If you are really into control, you want to control other people, a controlling person really pushes your buttons. So I see some nodding heads here. Yeah, and it goes right down the line here. So a lot of times when these things happen, it's really good to say, oh, wait a minute, I got to contemplate what provokes resentment, and start looking in, and you might learn some very interesting things about yourself. And again, you've got to see the dirt before you can clean it up. So it's good to see this, rather than going, oh, there it is again, more of the same old, poor me, I'm always screwing up. So that brings on confession. And I've talked about this recently in this room. Was it Thursday night that I talked about confession here?
I think it was.
Yeah. But technically that wasn't part of the program, and there are people here that weren't present for that. When we see our own faults, it's good to forgive ourselves, but it's also good to purify them. And there are 4 parts of a confession. The first is a reliance, and that would be to rely on the Buddha, the Karmapa, a respected teacher, and so forth. So visualize that being in front of you. If you, in your shrine room, had a statue, you could actually just look at that statue and confess to that statue. So then the second thing is to have regret. So you need to see what it is that you have done that has been non-virtuous, and then have regret that you have done it. And regret is different from guilt. Guilt is that you see that you have done something non-virtuous, but you blow it up, and you have this long monologue about, not only did I do it this time, but I did it that time. In fact, I've been doing this my whole life. I'm fundamentally a bad person, and I'm always engaging in all kinds of non-virtuous actions. Usually it's not at that level. It's more of the level of a locker room or a bar, the language. At least that's what I have found. Your language is pretty accusatory, Maybe has some profanity in it. But that's guilt. It's like if you just beat yourself up enough, you're going to get better. Somehow or another improve. And it doesn't work. If it would have worked, it would have worked by now. You're old enough to have done it enough that if it would have worked, your behavior, you would be completely perfect. Never do anything wrong. So you need to have the remorse and the regret. That is a good feeling. But the guilt is just another poison of the mind. You're failing to see your fundamental Buddha nature with the guilt. The third aspect then is the remedy. And an easy remedy would be to then just mentally, or if you were alone, you could do it out loud too. Just say, this is what I did. And again, you don't have to elaborate with, I was a dumb son of a da-da-da-da-da. I just did these things. There are formal liturgies of confession that you can chant. And another thing that you could do is if you have received instructions on Vajrasattva mantra, you could do Vajrasattva mantra for it. Vajrasattva mantra is a purification mantra. Any of those three things would be the remedy. The fourth then is resolve to not do it again. We're dealing with a habitual pattern, and usually, and so you probably will do something similar to it again. And the resolve is, I'm going to do what I can to avoid doing it again, but I also resolve to purify it again the next time I do it. It's develop a positive habit. And eventually the positive habit overpowers the negative habit. So again, the guilt leaves you powerless. The confession and purification empowers you. There's something you can do. And it's just pure laziness after knowing this when you just go down the road of guilt and say, oh, I'm just bad, there's nothing I can do about it, yada, yada, yada. So we've got the forgiveness and we've got the purification. That pretty much takes care of anger towards yourself and self-loathing and so forth. And that brings up, this is white Tara here. And the reason why I hand out white Tara is that this painting was painted, this is a copy of a painting that the 17th Karmapa did. And he did it for an empowerment, a white Tara empowerment, that Khenpo Karta Rinpoche did. So it has a special meaning. What happened was that Khenpo Rinpoche went to Taiwan, and he was scheduled to do a white Tara empowerment at this one temple. And some of the members of that temple went to the Karmapa and said, could you do a white Tara painting for this empowerment that Rinpoche is going to give? And he did. What is very interesting about this painting, and I guess I'll hold it up again, is that she's not pure white. She has flesh tones. Mm-hmm. And I've never seen a white Tara that looked more like a living person than a classical white Tara. But if the Karmapa paints her this way, then it's certainly permitted to have white Tara. Lama Karma said, it looks like she's going to blink. She looks almost alive. Yeah, white Tara. There are 21 Taras? Yes. She is intended to be very beautiful and also youthful, surprisingly youthful. She represents you. She represents our mind. And mind is ageless. You know, Michelangelo portrayed God as being old, wrinkled, and having a beard. With, you know, maybe I shouldn't even get into Christianity and their iconography. But here, the deities in Vajrayana are youthful, like 16 years old. You know, the full bloom of youth, the vigor, the beauty, like an opening, freshly opened flower. And so that's why she's young. Same thing with Chenrezig. Obviously, she has an unnatural, first of all, she's a deity, by the way. You have to remember that this is not a picture of a real person. Women do not have waists that are that thin, proportionate to the rest of their body. Not that I've done a significant study on this matter. But, you know, same thing with Chenrezig. He basically has the same waist as the female deities. And I guarantee you my waist never was like that, even when I was 16. But what she represents is our mind. All of our minds. My mind, your mind, the Karmapa's mind. She is considered the mother of all the Buddhas, the great mother. White Tara is considered the white mother, the great mother. She represents wisdom. Wisdom in Vajrayana is female. I'm sure you like that.
More one for the ladies.
Yes, so female represents wisdom, and she's called the mother of all the Buddhas because in order to attain Buddhahood, you have to realize wisdom. You can't do it any other way. Now, I talked about Buddha nature yesterday, where we all have this seed of Buddhahood, seed of perfection, purity, and so forth. In Vajrayana, we also have the nature of the particular deity that we are practicing. So we have white Tara nature too. This is why I say this is who we really are. We all have the seed of white Tara, and if you would practice white Tara, you could eventually then attain the state of white Tara. And you realize the deity. His Holiness, the 17th Karmapa, is called an emanation of Chenrezig. You could also have an emanation of white Tara. And men, means is considered masculine. You know, men are doers. Let's go out there and do something. However, men have feminine aspects, and women have masculine aspects. The Karmapa talks about this. It's in Vajrayana Buddhism. So in some of the more advanced Vajrayana practices, you'll have a male deity and a female deity together, symbolizing the union of the wisdom and the means. In this case, she's by herself. She does not have a consort. The reason why I'm bringing this up is that this is who we really are. This is a picture of our mind, which has no form, shape, color, or anything. But this is intended to inspire us to understand our mind, our wisdom. Yes?
I mean, it's basically just a personification.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, a personification. Another reason why I chose white Tara is that not only is she the mother of all the Buddhas, but she has qualities. One of her qualities is the same as green Tara. Tara means liberator. Drolma is the Tibetan word for Tara, and it means female liberator. That sounds kind of powerful. Mm-hmm. Again, I think most women would like that that's feminine, a female liberator. We're not talking about, some Hollywood movie, but she quickly liberates beings from suffering. Secondly, she protects from fear. Trauma produces fear. Living in samsara produces fear. Really, the root of suffering is fear. Finally, she bestows health, physical and mental health. There is a book of Khenpo Rinpoche's teachings on white Tara. It's called The Wish-Fulfilling Wheel. And in the beginning, he tells stories of different masters that practiced white Tara and how they extended their lives through the practice of white Tara. Rinpoche should have been dead by the time he was 60 years old. He's now 91. The rumor on the among the Karmeling Lamas is that he does a lot of white Tara. Last year we did a big 90th birthday celebration at KTD, and what was it, 144 Tara statues were produced, and so forth. So this is why I choose white Tara for this. She protects from fear. She bestows mental and physical health, quickly liberates you from suffering. So that kind of covers the bases. And so what we are purifying, this is that diamond that's encrusted in manure that we are trying to uncover through confession, purification, forgiveness, and so forth. This is who you really are. Yes. In Vajrayana, it's very different than other forms of Buddhism. And this is what makes it so powerful. The goal becomes the path. So the goal is to become fully enlightened. Well, here we have a fully enlightened being. So we visualize ourselves as a fully enlightened being. Now you need a white Tara empowerment to visualize yourself as white Tara. But, and I recommend, if you feel any kind of good attachment, or just seeing this painting makes you feel good, I recommend getting an empowerment of White Tara, because you probably got a connection with her. But you visualize yourself as White Tara. You have a chanted liturgy that there's visualizations that go along with it. You become the deity. You become White Tara during this practice. And then you say her mantra, Om Tari Tutari Tori Soha. And so during the chanted liturgy, you start behaving like White Tara. Little by little by little, this wears away thinking about ourselves as this samsaric body in this ego, klesha-ridden existence, that there is something beyond that is pure and perfect and free of suffering and so forth. And it becomes a very quick path. It is much more powerful than just sitting and meditating, or doing even the Lojong or the 7 points of mind training aren't as powerful as this. And you could combine these other two with deity practice, not all together, but it isn't like you abandon one and do another one. When last weekend I led a Nyungne practice, and it had external discipline. We had times of silence, we did fasting, and cleanliness was important, and so forth. That was the kind of the Hinayana part of the practice. The Mahayana part of the practice was that we were doing this to benefit all beings and had compassion for all beings. If we started feeling hungry or thirsty, we would at least try to think that may this hunger of mine embody the hunger of beings that are hungry and thirsty and so forth. And then the Vajrayana aspect was we visualized ourselves as Chenrezig and said his mantra. And so these do not have to be looked at as being entirely separate. But the Vajrayana is an extremely powerful path. Khenpo Rinpoche said this one time. He said there are other powerful spiritual paths, but there are none that are more powerful than Tibetan Buddhism. And I think Lama Losang would agree with this. And that is, when you're in a 3-year retreat, you start getting the power of it, and you sometimes think, I don't think I could handle any more power than this. I mean, you really start feeling the power. And even in a Nyungne, you start feeling there's something going on here. You can't put your finger on it, but there's something going on. And then at the end of the Nyungne, again, you just start feeling a little bit different. And, I want more of this.
Mm-hmm. Well, and even beyond that, I'm not the same person that went into Nunye.
Yeah.
It's like it's vibrations in the water that just continue.
Yeah. I talk about myself here a lot during these programs, and sometimes I think it sounds like I've got a big ego. I hope it doesn't that way. But I led at my center last March 8 Nyungne in a row, and I'd never done 8 in a row. I think I had done 4 in a row was the most I had done. And I do volunteer work in a prison. And the day that it ended, I then went into the prison to do my program there. And an inmate showed up for the first time. He had never seen me before. And he saw me right after getting out of Aikman. That was 17 days, by the way. Every other day you're fasting. You go for, I don't know, I think close to 40 hours without eating. You eat one meal every 2 days. And you might think, oh my gosh. But anyway, this inmate saw me for the first time, and then he was back the next week, and he told me, when I saw you last week, you were glowing. You know, I can't put my finger on it, but that's the way I felt too. And you're all invited. I'm doing one this next year too. That's just something that is very powerful about the Vajrayana. This would be between you and your teacher to figure that one out. In Buddhism, there are Dharma protectors, and there's a function for them. But again, you need to have, with any Vajrayana practice, you need to have a close relationship with the Vajra master for guidance. Because it is so powerful that there's not as much room for mistakes. Rinpoche said this one time in comparing the different paths, that again, what we're trying to do is unearth this jewel of mind. And with the Hinayana, doing sitting meditation and engaging in outer discipline and so forth, we're digging it up with our hands. We've got our fingers and our nails and our hands digging it up. And with Mahayana, where we're stressing compassion for all beings, then we get a pick and a shovel to dig it up. And he said, with Vajrayana, you've got dynamite and a bulldozer. And bulldozers are dangerous, you know, if you don't know how to operate them. And so you need to develop a close relationship with a teacher that can guide you and make sure that you're going in the right direction. So that's what I would say for that. You all get to take this home with you. Yes, yeah, this is a gift from the center. And I'm impressed with the quality of the printer, by the way. Yes, it's nicer than my printer, but I'm not envious.
We have a professional printer.
That's right, I went over there with you. Yeah. Correct, yes. Yeah, the empowerment empowers you to do the mantra and do the practice. And so that's why I recommended, if you feel kind of attracted to white Tara, to receive the empowerment. Yes. It's safe to do it, yes, absolutely. It's safe to do it, but they work best with the empowerment. Work best with the empowerment.
The three things are the empowerment, the reading transmission, and the instruction on how to do it. It's important you know how to do it.
Yes. Good point. That's exactly right. Now I'll tell you, when I did this program at KTD, I handed out White Tara's picture before the forgiveness. And Khenpo Tenkyong surprised me in that what he said was, visualize yourself as White Tara when you're visualizing yourself in the future. And then he said, only if you've received the empowerment. So I was assuming that not many people here have had that empowerment. But if you've had that empowerment, and go get it, that you can do things like that. And certainly you can say the mantra without the empowerment. It just will not be as powerful. That's all. Another thing about Dharma, and these pictures especially, is that they're sacred, and so keep them in a high place. Do not put them on the floor. Yeah, any other questions about her?
But the ones that you're attracted to it, that's a good thing. And so, studying that and getting the opportunity to do the empowerment and get the instruction in the room, that's great. Because we're going to have a natural kind of affinity, maybe more towards one than another. And the one that you have the most confidence in and the most faith in is the best.
Yeah, and I have complete confidence that Lama Losang can give you instructions in that. So, and if it's another deity that you seem drawn to, then again, talk to the Lama here.
And we have teachers coming to do, like Lama Karma came and did Amitabha, Rinpoche will come to do Chenrezig, and I think next year we have Lama Karma for Green Tarma. Yeah, so we do have teachers come to do those things here.
Yeah.
And if you're part of our listserv, you will know what to come to.
It's really wonderful to see how active this center is, how much is available here. It really is. And I'm sure this has been consecrated. Yeah, so this center has its own power that I felt it when I came in. Yeah, this is a good place to come. Are there, any other comments or questions about White Tara? Trying to think if there's anything more that I can add to her. I will say this, if you'll notice that in the painting she's holding a lotus, and it's that same symbolism, and what she's sitting on is also a lotus. The lotus grows in the slime and the muck. That's what nourishes it, and then it blooms completely pure and perfect.
What is in her hands, in the center of her hands and foot?
Yes, she has a total of 7 eyes. And there's different interpretations of that. An easy one would be that she just sees the suffering of beings. And she's dressed in jewels and silk, gold, this is the way deities are dressed. And as you can see, this is not too different from Indian iconography. And actually, if you would compare her to a drawing or a painting of Chenrezig, there's a lot in common with the jewelry and the crown and so forth. But she is intended to be, when you visualize her, intended to be incredibly beautiful, like you can't keep your eyes off of her. Chenrezig is described as incredibly handsome. You can't keep your eyes off of him. Just captivating, I think would be a good word. She's not intended to be overly sexual. She's intended to be feminine. Very, very feminine. I can't tell you which of the taras it is, of the 21, but there is one of the 21 taras that is intended to be very seductive and sexual. I believe she's associated with magnetizing karma. It makes sense. Attraction, Uh, but she's just intended to be very, very feminine, very beautiful, and just captivating.
You mentioned that she and the deities look similar to like Indian
Yes.
iconography. So do these deities come from just the Tibetan culture over history?
Tara and Chenrezig, they come from India. This art, the inspiration of it came from India. And while I'm not an art historian, I think actually a lot of their inspiration came from Greece after Alexander the Great. You know, if you look at the statues, we've got Greek statues that still exist, and we've got some very old Indian statues, and there's a lot in common. Yeah, I saw in a book of Joseph Campbell's that came out when he did his Power of Myth series, and there was, I think it was a Syrian king that held a vajra in his hand. It wasn't a closed one, it was open one, but double pointed, and it was a symbol of power. It was a lightning bolt. And this was before the Buddha was born. You know, these things travel.
So what about the Vajrayana in itself? Was that brought to Tibet, or
Yeah.
was it kind of incorporated in Tibet?
It was brought to Tibet.
Okay.
Padmasambhava, that name was cropped up a little while ago,
Yeah.
brought it and transplanted it in Tibet. It had come to Tibet before that time, but had not been firmly established.
Right.
But it came from India, went to Tibet. There were different forms of Buddhism in India, lots of different forms. And so people from these various countries in Asia brought it to their country. And so different forms were transported to different parts of Asia. And then they flowered in those different parts.
That's how you get the different lineages and stuff.
Exactly. There is one Vajrayana lineage in Japan. Lama Losang has been to Japan. He knows about this more than I do.
It's very much, Tibet really cultivated the Vajrayana.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
kind of what I figured.
Yeah, it's their specialty.
Yeah.
And so there are other forms of Buddhism in Tibetan Buddhism, but it's their specialty. And Khenpo Rinpoche and all these other great teachers primarily are guiding their students to Vajrayana because it is so powerful. Some people, because of various obstacles in their life and just motivation and aptitude and so forth, the Vajrayana is not appropriate for. But it's probably appropriate for all of you. The very fact that you're here
Right.
is an indication. It's not a high bar. The high bar is how much of your energy and time you want to put into it. That's the bar. And you don't have to be particularly intelligent to do it. In fact, Trungpa Rinpoche said a high intelligence can be an obstacle because you get too enthralled with your own intelligence and how sharp you are and so forth. This student of mine that I'm just so pleased with, he's got a GED. You know, he didn't even graduate from high school. But in prison, he got a GED. He's got a little bit of, he talks a little bit funny, and it's because of probably nerve damage due to brain, drugs. But he's got a tremendous amount of devotion. He's got a tremendous amount of faith and a tremendous amount of diligence. When this man attacked him, and when he went like this and the guy quit attacking him, he said, I felt like I was protected by His Holiness the Karmapa. That's what it takes, is that kind of confidence in the Karmapa. Yeah. He said he wants to do a 3-year retreat, and I'm going to do whatever I can to get him into a 3-year retreat. So it isn't that you're highly educated or incredibly smart. It's that you develop confidence, that you have the diligence, that you're willing to kind of say, I've bottomed out in samsara. I want to get out. It sucks here in samsara. I've had enough pain. And that's what he's got going for him. It's just been pain for him in samsara. Abusive childhood, on the streets, in prison. He's had it. He said, I want to get out of samsara. So that's what it takes. That's all it takes. So these are good questions about that, yeah. Anything else? Okay. I really don't have too many more things to talk about. But I've covered a lot of ground. And I want to talk a little bit about trust. And actually, that does follow what I just said. The idea of devotion is trusting the teachers and trusting the Dharma. And it's not blind faith kind of trust. It's something that develops. That first you come in contact with the Dharma and the teachers, and you realize that there's something different here. That this is not something that really I haven't run into before. And I like it, and I'm attracted to it. And so it's kind of a longing kind of trust. And then from that, you're encouraged to put more energy and time into study and practice, meeting more teachers, and you start developing some confidence. Like your example of the Nyungne, something happened. It gives you some confidence that there's something going on that's worthwhile. And hopefully that, from my point of view, it's my wish that when the program is over with, you're going to say, something happened this weekend that was good, something changed a little bit. And so as you practice and study and attend teachings more and more, you start developing more confidence in the teachers and the teachings. And then finally, when you start, I talked about emptiness a little bit yesterday, when you actually start getting a glimpse of emptiness, then you develop certainty that yes, what they've been teaching all along, it is right. And none of this is blind faith. The Karmapa says blind faith hampers the development of wisdom. That's the wrong approach. If I just have enough faith, then everything's going to be all right. Nope, that doesn't work. Now, another kind of trust that I feel is extremely important is trusting yourself. And this goes back to Vaitara, Buddha nature, that you have to be able to trust yourself. that you do have something worthwhile inside, underneath all the conflicting emotions, all the garbage, all the manure, that there is something worthwhile there, and that you can do it, that you can travel the path, that you can accomplish something. And it kind of goes hands in hand with trusting the Dharma and the teachers and the practices. But if you don't trust yourself, then you can't even trust a decision to practice the Dharma. You could easily, a year later, say, well, that was a bad decision that I made. I didn't know what I was doing. I'm not capable of making a good decision. So you have to trust yourself and trust your own ability to travel the path. Yes, I agree. I agree. And so what I have been trying to transmit this weekend is tools in working with these hard times, with the depression, with when the family crisis arises, and so forth. Continue to practice. Continue to do shamatha to calm your mind down. This is really important. Something that you can experience. This both demonstrates that the practice works and that there's something there. Your Buddha nature is there. It's just a glimpse. But when you do shamatha, if you do it properly over a period of time, you'll notice that you're not as volatile as you were before you started practicing. You might take more to bring you to the point of tears or before becoming frantic or whatever is your particular habitual pattern, that it takes more to get you that point and you don't dwell there so long. Or you might be that when you are done with a meditation session, you just kind of feel good. You don't even know what feeling good means, but there's just something, you just feel a little better. And you don't know why. I'm not talking about going, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about you just kind of feel good. Feel a little better than when you went in. And it doesn't mean it's going to happen every time. But there's these little clues that we're continually running into when we practice that let us know we're kind of going in the right direction, that there's something there. When you feel good, we're not meditating on peace. We're not meditating on love. We're not meditating on calmness. But if you feel a little bit of it, well, where is it coming from? Yeah, where is it coming from? Another example. So you are meditating and a thought comes in your mind and you're no longer following the breath. And another thought, and another thought, and another thought. 10 minutes later, you go, I'm not following the breath. And you come back and follow the breath. And then another thought comes, and but what was it that went, I'm not following the breath? What was that? That is your inherent wakefulness. Well, you see, that accident woke you up. Yeah, it meant, oh, this is magical thinking. I remember some of the movies that I watched as a kid. You know, somebody, it might be the Three Stooges, you know, and the one guy's acting up and all of a sudden Mo slaps him across the face. Thanks, I needed that. You needed that. I'm being a little silly here, But these sorts of things kind of wake us up to what's really happening. And while we can get some protection from the Dharma, it isn't going to give you total protection. Jamgon Khantrul III was killed in an auto accident in his 40s. Accidents happen. Yeah, we have a human body that we have to deal with. But the practice can, as I said, this student of mine said that he felt the Karmapa protected him. And I would have to agree with him, but you don't get 100% protection. You still have karma to deal with.
He still got hit a few times before.
Yeah, he still got hit a few times,
Yeah.
right. I didn't see a black eye, by the way.
Right, there wasn't like a magic force field there protecting him, but
Yeah.
he didn't get too injured or die from it, so.
Yeah. And the Dharma can also protect you from having a lot of mental suffering after the accident happens.
Which is a lot of times worse than the initial accident.
Oh, yes. Yes, exactly. But in the human, we're in samsara. There are all different kinds of realms in samsara. It takes a lot of good karma to be born in a human body. A lot. It's not an accident. That a Buddha described it this way. He said that I think it was for an animal to be reborn in the human realm, the chances were, he compared it to a sea turtle and an ox yoke. An ox yoke would go over the neck of an ox. It would be like a horse collar. They're made out of wood, and it would have a bowl on it to be basically a U-shaped thing, and then a piece of wood that would go on top to put it around. So this is floating on the ocean. And there's a sea turtle that every 100 years has to go up for air. And that ox yoke is being blown around by the wind and tossed by the waves, and so it's random. Its location is random. In 100 years, it could be almost anywhere in the ocean. Every 100 years, this sea turtle, who's blind, doesn't know where it's going, he just knows it's going up, sticks his head up. Buddha said it is harder for an animal to be reborn in the human realm than it is for that sea turtle to stick his head through the ox yoke. But you're in a human realm. It's not a mistake. So you've got a lot of good karma to be born in the human realm. And that's something we need to appreciate. But we do have some bad karma with it, some negative karma with it, and that can cause accidents and so forth. And this is why there is purification. These purification practices is with a chanted purification prayer, we would confess not only what we have done in this lifetime, but what we have done in all previous lifetimes. One of the Tibetan epithets for a sentient being is karma carrier. If karma were solid, we would be crushed, probably, all the karma we're carrying. But it's not solid. So sometimes people think, well, when I have accidents or bad things happen to me, I get sick, get cancer, whatever. It's because I'm a really bad person. And you go down this road of blaming yourself and how bad and everything you are. But it means that you've got some mixed karma. You've got basically really good karma, but you've got some bad karma in there too. But the good thing about bad karma is that bad karma can be purified before it ripens. I guess to sum it up, whenever these things happen to us, they're good reminders to purify karma, and that samsara is not a good place to hang out. It's not a safe place to hang out. We like to think that we can be safe in samsara, and it's not safe. I'm sorry to tell you that, but it's not safe. I'm more of warning you that it is not safe. Yeah. So, I like these discussions, by the way. So, any other things? Oh, that's a good question. It's not hard. All you have to do is ask. Will you accept me as a student? I'll tell you what, I have seen Rinpoche come to a place like this, have a person just show up and say, I want to take refuge, and he gives refuge. So it would not necessarily have to be a time that would elapse before being accepted as a student.
You might want to just mention refuge, what that is.
Yes. That's a good point too. A couple of really good points here. The idea is that in this existence that all of us live, it's called samsara. It's you're born into it, we live for a while, then we die, and then we're reborn and do it all over again, and over again, and over again, and over again, and over and over and over and over again.
Beginningless time.
Since beginningless
time.
Yes, yeah, and in the Nyungne, some of the prayers talk about, a million previous universes. This one is, 14 billion years old, roughly, so, and we don't know if we're in the middle or the end or just a little past the beginning. So multiply that times a million. That's a lot of different lifetimes. So anyway, the problem with it is, well, it's nice to be alive, that as soon as you're born, you've received a death sentence. I know this sounds pretty morbid. And then in between birth and death, there's a lot of other suffering. If there wasn't, you people wouldn't be here. It's that simple. You know about that. There's a lot of happiness too. It's a mixed bag. But the idea is that the Buddha discovered the way out, where you can end suffering. You can end the necessity of being reborn. Or in the case of bodhisattvas, who their compassion is so great, they come back to rescue others and bring others out, but they do not suffer anymore. One favorite story of mine is about, I can't tell you who the Tibetan master was, but he was a great master in the past. And on his deathbed, all his students gathered around and begged him not to die. Oh, please don't leave us. We need more teaching, yada, yada, yada. And so finally, he's laying down. He sits up and sternly says, I can't go anywhere. Now let me die in peace. Bodhisattvas can't go anywhere. They have to come back in one form or another. All right already, huh? And so the idea of refuge is that the Buddha taught the way out. He taught how we can end our suffering. And so we take refuge in the Buddha, his teachings and practices, and then the Buddhist community, especially the realized teachers, as our guides. So it's refuge from the suffering of samsara and our guides on the way out. And it's a formal ceremony where you commit to the Buddhist teachings and the Buddhist path. And you would need to have refuge, by the way, to receive a White Tara empowerment. So this is doubly good. This does not mean that you would need to abandon any other form of spirituality that you're also already involved in. What it does mean is that Buddhism is on top. There are a lot of people that are in the Sangha that practice yoga in a big way, for instance. Rinpoche has also said this: just because you make a new friend doesn't mean that you have to give up your old friend. So refuge is looked at that. It's not like we are right and all other spiritual paths are wrong. It's just that this is the one that I'm going to take most seriously. Yes?
My understanding, one can have a number of teachers during the course of a lifetime. There is, again, according to what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, there's one teacher, they call it Tsawi Lama, who's the principal teacher of one, but one can take refuge and study with numerous teachers along the way on this path.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so one can study with a teacher and he could be your teacher, but he or she may not be your Tsawi Lama, your principal teacher.
Yes, Khenpo Rinpoche has said that the Karmapa is your root teacher. And he was saying this in this period between the death of the 16th Karmapa and the identification of the 17th Karmapa. There was something like 10, 11 years that passed where he was telling people that the Karmapa is your root Lama. This is an indication of how fortunate we are, that we have the Karmapa as our main Lama. Then you have Khenpo Karta Rinpoche, you've got Trangu Rinpoche, Taisitu Rinpoche, Jamgon Khantrul now is about 20 years old, I think. He'll be teaching soon. Mingyur Rinpoche is in our lineage. There's lots of extremely good teachers that are in the Kagyu lineage. Khenpo Tenkyong, I can't wait to receive teachings from him. And then there are people like us, 3-year retreat lamas. Well, we're not Vajra masters, but we still have something we can impart. We can still give teachings. I have students, and I tell them that, well, I am just carrying out the activity of Khenpo Karta Rinpoche, and Khenpo Rinpoche is carrying out the activity of the Karmapa. So the Karmapa is your root guru, and I'm doing what I can. And that's the way I look at it. And I think that Lama Losang would like you to look at him the same way.
If the shoe fits.
Well, I'm going to try your shoes on. Because if your shoes fit me, then mine fit yours. So that's a very good question about lineage, teachers, and so forth. I have had a number of teachers, and Trungpa Rinpoche told this story, that again in Tibet, these 5 young men heard about this great Lama that was coming, because they were nomads. They still are today. I'm a nomad. Travel all over the place. So this great Lama came into the area, and these 5 young men went up to this great Lama and said, "We'd like to be your student. Please accept all of us as your student." And so the great Lama said, well, I will accept all of you as my student, but first you have to give up your present Lama. And 4 of them got very excited. Yes, yes, we'll do that if you'll accept us. And one said, no, I can't do that. And so the Lama said, okay, the 4 of you that would give up your previous Lama would also give up me. Therefore, I'm not accepting you. And he did accept the one that refused to give up his previous Lama. So,
Trick question.
yes, it was. Yeah, Lamas do that sometimes. Yeah, you got to watch for them sometimes. They can be tricky. But anyway, any Lama that you learn from, and that really is what's crucial, is are you learning something from this teacher? A great teacher, you might not have the right karmic connection to learn from. And if you can learn from a Lama, that's always a good sign. And also, it's good to examine the Lama to see if he is a good Lama. And you're fortunate in that both the Rinpoche and the Karmapa, you don't have to look very hard. I have been a student of his since I took refuge in 1988 with him. And so I've had a long student-teacher relationship with him. And you don't have to worry about him. He's not looking for students to give him lots of money. There's going to be a scarf offering later on. I have literally given him an envelope with money in it. Have him open it, count it before we will accept it, because he didn't want me to give too much, and I've seen him do that with other people as well. He's not after your money. He's not after good-looking female students. He is a very celibate monk. He treats everybody equally. He's not after your praise. If you want to get him bored in a hurry, start praising him. Yet he is a scholar. He knows the Dharma extremely well, and he is an excellent practitioner. And I believe his name, Kartar, means one who has traveled the path to its completion, which is a pretty powerful name. So that's what I can tell you about him, that he is an excellent teacher.
What does your name mean?
Mine is Karma Sultram Yeshe. The karma means that it's from the Karma Kagyu lineage. Sultram is discipline, ethical conduct. And I received that because the name came from Tai Situ Rinpoche, and that is one of his names. There were 6 of us that took ordination at that time, and all 6 of us were named Sultram. All 6 of us were Karma Sultram. And then the Yeshe means primordial wisdom. So the Yeshe was the individual name for me. To be humorous, and I never leave up a joke if I can avoid it, it means that if I'm wise, I'll behave myself. Isn't that right? Yes. And I'll tell you this about Rinpoche, Khenpo Rinpoche. I talked about depression earlier. He had never met me before I took refuge. And when it came to refuge, you're given a name, too, with refuge. And so he had a pile of refuge cards. because you had to sign up to take refuge, so he knew how many people and the sex of the people. So he had a pile of refuge cards, and so you come up and get a name individually from him. So I'm up there in front of him, and he looks at me. And he's got individual names on these cards. And then he gives me the one that he felt that I needed, and it was diligent loving kindness. And as I said, diligence for the laziness, loving kindness for the anger towards yourself. So at that point, it took me a while to realize that in its entirety, but even at that point I felt, I think he knows more about me than I know about me. And it's a stronger feeling now than ever. And that's the kind of teacher you want, that can see where you need to do the work and how to do it. What you wanted was Our Lady of Perpetual Responsibility. Pardon me, but you're taking it too seriously. It's such a terrible responsibility. I don't know how many different ways I can say lighten up, but I'm trying. The idea of goddess, that is used a lot in female names. It's used a lot. It's very common. As for Yeshe, it's an extremely common Tibetan name too. It's not an unusual name. The idea is great bliss, or bliss is a quality of mind. Yeah, you don't have to create the great bliss. That's the mistake. We think that if we just go into a proper samadhi, we will enter an altered state of great bliss. And what the Buddha said was that you're already in an altered state. And what you want is an unaltered state. And that unaltered state is one of bliss. Yeah, but like I said, this is an inherent quality of you. It isn't something you create. You uncover it and discover it and liberate it. I'll repeat this again. We think that we have to create a blissful state. But and it's an altered state. It's a created state. You're already in an altered state. And what we're going for is an unaltered state. And that unaltered state is naturally blissful. It's not a matter of creating the bliss. It's getting everything else out of the way. It would be a bit like you've got a ball that's filled with air, and you're at the beach there and you're sitting on it. If you get off of it, it'll rise to the surface. You don't create a ball. Yeah, the bliss is there. And in trying to create the bliss, you're going down the wrong road. And obviously you're female. I hope that isn't too much of a responsibility. So this is a quality of mind, and that it's uncreated. If there's a seed of that there, and it's just a matter of letting it bloom, of getting rid of, purifying all the things that are keeping that from arising. And so it's not a big responsibility. Don't feel overwhelmed by that. Yet, don't feel overwhelmed by that. Yeah, I thought of I'll just kind of modify a story that I heard, not Buddhist, but the wise old dog and the young pup. And so they're in the living room there by the fireplace. It's the wintertime in Wisconsin, and they're very happy to have that warm fire in front of them. And the old dog is lying down, and then the young pup gets up and starts chasing his tail around. You know, and finally, the old dog, hearing all this commotion, thinking of Lama Losang's dog, the toenails on the floor. The old dog lifts his eyelid and looks, well, what are you doing? And the young pup says, well, I hear that there's bliss at the end of my tail. I'm going to get a big bite of it. And the old dog says, it's true, there is bliss at the end of your tail. But if you leave it alone, it follows you wherever you go. with that, I think this is a good place to complete the program. And I've had a great time with all of you. I really appreciate the opportunity to come here and teach and be with all of you. And you've been very kind to me as well.